Okay, so I built a little trailer, and I like to go fishing and camping, and I retired last year. I got all this time on my hands, and I've been doing this for a really long time. I think this is from like the early 90s. You can tell I have brown hair and stonewashed jeans. I've been going through the tents, and I still have this tent. It's kind of a hassle to put up. This is the tent I'm using now. That's Danny's. It's the green one, and mine's the yellow and orange one. And I'm just like over the tent. I've been roughing it for 60 years, and I've been thinking about this since I retired. I started writing down some ideas as to what I might do. I wanted it to be 5 by 9 instead of like 5 by 10 or 4 by 8 or something like that. I don't know why. I just wanted it to be 5 by 9. And plywood comes in 4 by 8 sheets, so it was kind of like a weird configuration. So I decided to use 5 by 5 Baltic birch. And then I also decided the three things I was going to use and built it around was this, which is the Bluetti power station, which runs everything in the trailer, AC, DC, charges up with solar. I got solar panels for it. It's awesome. And then the second thing was an axle-less suspension from Timbren. It's a company in Canada. It's just a spindle on each side, and there's no axle, so it's a lot more clearance, and plus it's just cool, So I wanted to build it around that, and I'm going to be taking the Bronco, so I decided I wanted it to kind of match the Bronco as much as I can with the same wheels and 35-inch tires, etc. So I just started buying stuff and actually taped out what the trailer was going to look like. I was looking for used trailers, but I quickly realized, I'm going to have to modify it so much. I might as well just start from scratch, but I don't know how to weld, but my brother-in-law John does, and he lives 5 minutes from me. He's got a welding machine, and he's a good coach. So he showed me the ropes and helped me out a lot. And we just started building it. And turns out, it's not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. And it was a lot of fun. At first, I was having some difficulty because I just couldn't see, and my, helmet was too dark. But once I turned it down and could see the weld easier, then it got much better. So we got it all done at John's house. We got the wheels on, and it was remarkably square. And as you can see, it's pretty beefy. I mean, we put gussets all in all of the joints. And then we pulled it over to my house, and I put it in the garage, and I started, putting it together. The first thing I needed to do was figure out how to do these trailer lights, and I had to run the wire down through the tubes. But before I did that, I had to try and figure out, which wires went where, and I'm not an electrician, but I was able to figure it all out. And it's got electronic brakes on the trailer, so I had to take that into consideration too. Connect that to the Bronco with a brake controller. And I thought, what the hell, I should probably paint it first. So after I figured out the wiring and I knew where it's supposed to go, then I thought, I'll paint it, and then I'll drill holes and do all that rest of the stuff to run all the wire, which I did, which was pretty tedious, but it turned out they're all working great. no problems. I think I did a little bit better job than I expected I was going to do with the wiring. Um, I just sort of like made it up as I went along, but it turned out good. Then once I was done, then I was now moving on to like, doing stuff with wood, which is much more my comfort zone. And I coated all the bottoms, the underside of these marine grade 3/4 inch plywood planks with Flex Seal. It's basically like liquid rubber. And so the underside of it is completely waterproof. And I put those down. And then I, put a vapor barrier over it, so um, it's completely waterproof on the deck. There's the vapor barrier, and then I just got going. Started, putting this bottom deck together, and it ended up being, about 3-inch thick deck. It's completely waterproof, completely insulated, and solid, and it added a lot of rigidity to the trailer. Then next, I had to start running wire. Ran wire all the way through it as much as I could that needed to go on the bottom, and then I used this insulation board to insulate it, which was about the same thickness as the space in between, so it turned out pretty good. I dropped a whole sheet of plywood on my shin, and it didn't really hurt, but it looked bad. Anyway, this was one of the first mistakes that I made. Was, when you're making a house, you see Amish guys, they're raising a whole side of a barn. You build the wall on the ground. You make sure it's nice and square, and then you raise it up and you nail it down. I didn't do that. I don't know why I didn't do that. I just decided I'm going to build the framing as I go, which was really stupid. And I definitely wouldn't have done that again. It wasn't square until this moment when I put up this 5x5 foot sheet of plywood, and then this other sheet of plywood. Now it's all square finally. And still, I went and continued to, do the framing as I went rather than the, usual and customary way. The other thing I might mention, you saw me laying down there, I had just gotten a spinal injection 6 days before I started working on this project, and my back felt great. But by the end of, this project, my back was a mess again. And then here I'm doing wiring, which was, it was one of those things where it's like, there were so many wires going all the way through this thing. I had to think of where they go and connect everything as best as I could, without really understanding what the ultimate thing that was going to get plugged into this stuff. I had kind of an idea, but wasn't exactly sure. But anyway, I did a pretty good job of sealing everything up, and I got all the wiring done. The problem with the wiring, or the bummer about the wiring, was it would take like all day, and I'd be doing this like all day long, and for like all day, I'd say like for 4 or 5 hours, and it would seem like nothing got done. I'd look, and it seemed like what happened today? I worked all day long, but it doesn't look like anything happened, and that was very common. Early on when I was doing this wiring, I was getting, kind of discouraged about progress because it just seemed like it was taking so long. But then once I got the wiring done, I started, doing some more woodworking, and we started making some better progress. There's really only one seam because it's 5x5, you know, and I have two 5x5 sections, so that's 10 feet, and it's 5x9. So there's really only one seam that goes all the way around the middle of it, and I just paid a lot of attention to make sure that that seam was really good and tight. You know, I think it's okay. But that was one of the reasons why I wanted to use 5x5 Baltic birch, because it was going to make the least amount of seams and it was going to make the most sense geometrically. So then I sealed everything up. You can see that pink stuff, which was really cool because it was pink wood filler, but then when it dried the natural color, so you knew when it was totally dry. Here's that insulation. I'm insulating the hell out of it. I used a hot knife to cut it, which was awesome, because there was no you know, dust or anything like that. The only thing was it gave off like this toxic vapor that I think I became immune to. I don't know. I had to make wheel wells for the fenders because they have to stick out a little bit. You can see it there in the black on the sides. Got the holes cut out, and I'm getting the insulation and inside pretty much done. And I'm like, you know, what do I do next? I think I'll put on this trim, but I had to make this door for the storage area. I didn't buy a door, I had to make a door. And it turned out pretty good. It's very tight. I mean, it fits like a glove. I decided it's time to paint the outside. Painted all the metal trim. And then I used this really expensive urethane waterproofing, that's the gray stuff, all over it. So it should be sealed. And I could, you know, do any, I wanted it to be two-tone, black and blue. I can do any design I want, so what the hell, I'll do some mountains. There's no pictures of the tape job that I did in order to make the stencil work. And I wish I could have shown you that, because I learned a lot about taping and painting afterwards, because I had issues and I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay, that's how you do it. So I'm a much better taper now, but it was after I was already done. Then I put down the floor and I put in the ceiling tiles, which are pretty cool, acoustic tiles. I got the windows in and the door, and I gotta say the windows probably took 2 weeks to get in. It was harder than doing the damn frame. Now all I got to do is the back galley, and once the galley's done, it's pretty much done. The inside is essentially done. Put baseboard and crown molding in there because I could, and it looks really comfortable. Yeah, so now it's time to just get to work on the back galley. Now I put a lot of thought into what was going to go in here, because it's a really cramped space and I need to jam as much stuff in there as I can. So I wanted a microwave, I wanted a water thing, I need a little sink, a tiny sink, a little cutting area, cooking area. I had some leftover hardwood, so I decided I'll just make a hardwood countertop for this cabinet, and I'll use gravity to feed the water down into this tiny sink. Got the microwave, got the cool light. I have some little electronic hot plates that I use. I didn't show it, but so it's all electronic. I don't use any gas or anything like that. Anyway, it's pretty much done. Now all I got to do is get a license for it, license plate. It needs to get a vehicle identification number, and that's going to happen, I think, on Tuesday. So I just had it weighed, and it weighs 2,360 pounds, which is right around where I thought it was going to end up. I thought it was going to weigh about 2,500 pounds. It's a little less than that. And it pulls like a dream. It doesn't wiggle around, it doesn't feel heavy. It pulls really, really good. Couldn't be happier. So there you have it. It took about 6 months. It wasn't like every day. Some days the weather wasn't good, but got a camper.